this episode of Moi TV, it's me, Anna Brand from Anna Brand Creative. Laura's asked me to be her guest cocktail correspondent this week, and we'll be creating a fully virtual episode from right here in Rothbury, Northumberland,
to here in Jarrow, South Tyneside.
Stick around to see me sharing my advice on what creates a really good looking brand, especially if you're a solopreneur.
Let's begin with a quick intro, Anna. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
If you've always wondered how to make your brand really good looking, then stick around, because by the end of this episode, you'll know how I do that with my one-to-one clients and also within my brand visibility program here at Anna Brand Creative. I've been in business for over 10 years now, but one of the reasons Laura and I get on so well is because we share quite similar and parallel stories. We're both diligent students in our creative specialisms, you in photography, Laura, and me in graphic design and branding. But both of us have been quite intentional about earning our stripes over the years, before going out there and shouting about being true pros. In the last year, I've begun a really exciting brand and visibility program. It's aimed at solopreneurs who want to have a really good brand, but one that actually gets them results. The program is called the Brand Advantage, and you'll pop a link in the notes below there, won't you, Laura?
Aye, Captain, I surely will. Oh, don't forget to tell everyone how we first met.
Well, we first met a few years ago at Atomic X, and ever since then we've been in touch online for a catch-up regularly.
Oh yes, I remember that. You were wearing a lovely faux fur coat. Now, I think it's quite tricky to discuss the principles of design and aesthetics in detail. That would take a really, really long time. Instead, can you give us some simple indicators that the less trained eyes watching this episode will be able to use as a way to check to see if their brand is a good looking one?
What makes a brand a really good looking one is, for me, number one, keeping it simple. The more colours, typefaces, different styles of images you have, the less memorable and recognisable you're going to become. And that goes for messages too. Number two is substance. And what I mean by that is to base it on actual substance. So design is meant to communicate. It's meant to communicate the right message to the right audience. So you need to be working on your brand and what that stands for before you decide on the visuals that are going to support that. Number three is consistency. The most underrated aspect of all, in my opinion. One of the simplest things to do, but one of the things that most businesses fail at. Consistently showing up in your way with your views and using that same visual style consistently across the board.
Anna, as an official cocktail correspondent today here on Moi TV, it's your job to pick a cocktail to accompany this episode. So why don't you let us know which cocktail you picked and why you picked it?
It's one of my favourites, a classic Cubra Libre. I like to serve this up in a tall glass with ice. You can't go heavy enough on the fresh lime, that's the trick. Plenty of lime juice, and then rub the lime around the inside of the glass as well. You need a generous glug of white rum. It has to be white rum. Top it up with Coke, and then serve with a straw and another fresh slice of lime.
This is a really great choice. I am also a huge fan of anything with rum in it, and I've made the same.
Cheers, me dears.
Here's to you. Anna, it's no secret that you and I feel quite similar about the idea of competition, and this is something that we've discussed a lot together. It seems to come up every time we have a chat. Do you want to give the folks at home a little bit more context behind this subject of ours?
Oh, I'm genuinely so pleased you've picked this to chat about, because it's one of the things I share a lot in my program, but you know how passionately I feel about this. I know I keep banging on about how you are your greatest potential, but it really is true. But it's only true if you do things in your way, with your views and opinions, your way of doing things, in your voice, with your personality, your values, your identity, your way of explaining things, your introvert, extrovert, or anything in between self. This is why personal branding is so important. I'm always saying that nobody does it better than you, but only if you do it in your way and you're not trying to mimic anybody else out there. Once you stop mimicking people and you do it in your way, then you really don't have any competition, because nobody can do your thing in your way. There's only one of you. And once you do this, you can start loving the other people in your field and stop seeing them as competition, and instead be cheering them on and celebrating what they do too. I truly believe this. In fact, I know this to be true.
I knew you'd put it better than I could. Thank you for that. A beautiful way to explain competition. We actually spoke about this in even more detail on this episode of Moi TV recently. So if this is a subject on your mind right now, make sure you check it out when you finish this episode. We'll put a link to that below in the show notes. It's also really important to both of us, I think, I hope you'll agree with me when I say this, that you pay careful attention to what makes an idea a really good idea versus something that is lazy or a little bit naff. And I actually think that knowing the differences and the nuances with this is hugely overlooked right now. How do you feel about that?
Hell yeah. This is something we both feel very strongly about, Laura, isn't it? After all, we've both spent a hell of a lot of time and money investing in the art of this. As a creative, this is the bit that we always struggle to explain to our clients. It's hard to quantify coming up with an idea. It takes a lot of time and practice. In my work, I have this thing where I always get rid of all the crappy ideas first, get them all out, visualize them on paper, and then you're kind of making space for the good stuff to happen. It's sort of like clearing out the idea factory inside your mind so you can make space for that really great idea. I think every creative struggles a lot with the fear that this idea might not happen. On the other side of the coin, when you are the client who's invested their confidence and money into a creative, it can feel like that moment in time when you've put your money into a vending machine and you've pushed the button and you're waiting for that item to drop. Those few seconds before you see that spiral moving can feel like an eternity.
Yes, we are the creative vending machines. Vending machines with occasional low confidence.
I actually loved the way you broke that down for people with different skill sets and abilities in idea generation. You did it in a really cool way on that How to Sex Up Your Creativity playbook, Laura. Have you shared that yet, or are you still sitting on it?
Whoops. Busted. We have plans to roll this out in more detail in the coming months, but I love that you just spilled the cocktails on this. What do you say? Shall we run a cheesy advert now?
Yeah, go on, run the ad.
If I asked you to be really honest with me about where you rank your creative ideas, where would you place yourself? Have you ever even taken a beat to really think about this? You see, in a lot of cases, we only start to question our creativity when we are faced with some sort of urgency, a dilemma, a problem, or a quest. But it doesn't have to be this way. Sex it up! Let me help you navigate your own creative expertise. By following the steps laid out in my How to Sex Up Your Creative playbook, you will be all set up to define what is a pretty average idea from the best idea of your career or even your whole life. You will be joined by fictional character Margot, the simple-minded 50s housewife. Margot's dilemma comes about when she learns she needs to create a dinner party that is deemed creative enough to help land her husband's next promotion. Dilemma: creativity. This playbook can be used time and time over to help you sex up your own creativity in an autonomous way. To find out more and download your own reusable copy of my How to Sex Up Your Creative playbook, please visit www.laurapearman.com/how-to-sex-up-your-creativity-playbook.
Anna, have you got any examples of really good looking brands? And I'm talking about visual examples. So examples that show a really good looking brand, but a one that's also really effective doing the job that it needs to do.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And yeah, of course I have. Now, I've specifically picked some that people can really relate to because not everybody's got thousands of professional photographs that they can turn to fill up their feed. And actually people want to know the real you anyway. And I think being really polished is killing creativity anyway. How can you be real and spontaneous if you have to quickly make yourself up and set the scene before you say anything? But there's no point having consistent visuals if you're not standing for anything. My first good looking brand example is Rachel K. Albers. I've recently started following her, and what's really interesting is she's actually just transitioned from being that really made up and polished good looking brand to being more spontaneous and real. Now she's still got this amazingly interesting Instagram feed, which is still visually consistent and visually branded, but she's got tons of real video on there of her being real and true and not made up at all, but she still managed to keep a consistent visual brand. She's really disrupting the market, but in a real and visually consistent way. My second good looking brand example is Gary Vee. Now you may be wondering what's really good looking branded wise about Gary Vee, but I just wanted to point out that visual branding isn't just the logo and colour palette. He does one thing visually consistent every single day, and that's him. What's visual about it? He poses in that exact same way in every single shot, in every single video. He has that same utter passion and enthusiasm for what he does. You cannot get that with a made up, fake and very posy style brand. What makes it good looking is his authenticity and consistency. My third good looking brand is Altruist Living. Now I've picked this one because as it's one of the ones that I created, I can tell you 100% that it came from the gut of that brand, as in exactly what they were all about, what they wanted to convey and how they wanted to convey it and who their audience was. These are the things that are so important when designing and defining your brand.
I really think seeing examples like that and then having somebody like you explain them in that way really helps you to build up a deeper understanding of it. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, before we sign off, Anna, why don't you tell everybody about where they can come and find out more about you and your fantastic online program?
Yes, people can come and hang out with me on Instagram, or if they'd like to find out more about my brand and visibility program, you can head over to my website at annabrandcreative.com, and under services you'll find a link to that, or you can drop me a message and I can tell you all about it.
I've been your host, Laura Pearman.
I've been your cocktail correspondent, Anna Brand, and if you've enjoyed learning about good looking brands with me today, then you should head over and check out these other episodes of Moi TV. And don't forget to come over and see me on Instagram too.
Thank you, Anna. Cheers. Mwah.
Mwah.
Now, before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe.